Her heart tightened. Who were these monsters that had come and stolen their joy and peace? Were they not humans? What made them so powerful? She decided that enough was enough and that they cannot continue living in fear of the unknown anymore. Something needed to be done, and someone needed to do that very fast. Many years ago, in the village of Ogidi, there was a young king named Uzo and his beautiful wife, Queen Adugo. King Uzo and Queen Adugo fell in love when they met at the stream. Adugo was an orphan girl, while Uzo was a prince at that time. Shortly after the death of the king, his father, Uzo was crowned the next king, and he married Adugo. The kind of love King Uzo and Queen Adugo shared was rare. The king loved and respected the queen, and publicly makes it known that no one comes before her. The queen in return loved and respected the king, being both a wife and backbone to him. Everyone in the village admired them and wished to experience their kind of love. They gave hope to the younger ones that it was possible to find true love. Everything was going on well in the village. Their lands were fertile and yielding a rich harvest. There was peace in their village and everyone was happy. On this fateful market day, everyone was going about their business when a certain news started to fly. The traders that usually came from marketing villages to sell their goods started to tell the people of Ogidi that a certain group of merchants were going to different villages to forcefully carry out their business. However, unlike other merchants, these ones traded humans. They come into a village, meet with the king, and propose to him the business. If the king agreed, he would be given a large bag of cowries in exchange for his people. But if he refused, they would forcefully take his people away. Rumor has it that these merchants sold these captives off across the sea in exchange for huge sum of money. They went on to say that some kings are now in alliance with them, while the ones that refused are facing the music. People now live in fear, not knowing when their village would be the next target of these merchants. Even though the news wasn't confirmed, the people of Ogidi started to spread the news all around the village. Some people believed the news, while some called it cheap rumors of lazy traders who wanted to use it as a strategy to draw customers to their goods. This went on until it got to the ears of King Uzo. His chiefs brought the news to him to alert him of the recent happening around them. Being a wise king, he held on to the news in his heart, while assuring his chiefs not to worry that everything was in control. He urged them to calm the villagers down so as to reduce the panic in the village. To him, panic was more dangerous. That night, King Uzo told Queen Adugo about the rumored human merchants and their escapades. Queen Adugo, sensing her husband's hidden fear, told him, "My husband, the bravest man I have ever known, I know you worry about the welfare of your people, but like you said, this is just a market rumor. We cannot do anything because we are not even sure if it is true. I would suggest you send out some men to go and investigate if these merchants are real. From there, we will know what next to do." King Uzo looked at his queen in admiration. "You see why I talk about you. You always bring comfort even in the time of discomfort. I would send two warriors out tomorrow morning. but I earnestly pray that the rumors are false." The next day, the king sent out two warriors to their neighboring village. After 2 days, the warriors came back with a report for the king. They told the king that the merchants are real and they are a terror in the villages they had invaded. However, they are still very far off from the village and would not be entering Ogidi anytime soon. So this would give them time to prepare and protect their village, pending when the merchants would reach their borders, if at all they would ever get there. King Agu's heart skipped a moment. What kind of temptation is this? His fathers before him had held and protected the people of Ogidi. Why must it be in his time that this kind of challenge must happen? Does it mean that Ogidi would fall in his hands? He had to do something to prevent this tragedy. He called his chiefs and informed them of the confirmation. He, however, told them to keep it away from the people so as not to scare them the more. The warriors would assemble and strategize to protect everyone in the village. King Uzo started to live in fear of the unknown, always at the alert for any movements. Queen Adugo would always reassure him that everything would be well and Ogidi would not fall under his watch. Unfortunately, what they feared the most happened sooner than they expected. King Uzo had just finished meeting with his chiefs when some men on horses rode into his palace. They greeted him with an official seal and stated that their mayor sent them to discuss business with him. The spokesman said that the mayor has found treasure in Ogidi and wanted to extend a hand of benevolence to the king. The mayor needed only a small favor in return: able-bodied young men and young girls. In return, the mayor would give him lots of cowries and protection. King Uzo looked at the men and was immediately filled with disgust for them. He told them plainly that his people were not for sale and that it was his duty to protect them. He gave them the reply to give to their mayor that he wasn't interested and he would never sell his people no matter the reward. The men left with a warning to King Uzo that he would regret it, as no one ever defies the mayor. King Uzo understood that he had drawn a battle line, and so he sent warnings to everyone in the village to always tread with caution and stay away from late night movements. They should always keep to walking in companies of more than 4 people and be at the alert at all times. The king increased the security at the borders of the village and in the palace. Children were no longer allowed to come outside. Everyone in Ogidi walked around with caution and a mind of self-defense. Until one day, someone started shouting that fire was burning in people's farms. The young men in the village and the warriors all ran to the farms to salvage the situation. As they were there, several men on horses came and captured them with ropes. Some were lucky to escape, while some were captured and taken away. The land of Ogidi was in great distress that day. Who would have thought that they would come and catch them unawares? The king was shattered. He felt he has failed his people. He was not there to protect his chicks from the hawk. Queen Adugo consoled him and urged him to remain strong for his people who looked up to him. King Uzo gathered more warriors and they tightened security everywhere in the village. Warriors were to accompany the people everywhere at all times. If the girls wanted to go to the stream, they would go with them to protect them. They continued like this until one day the village girls had decided to go to the stream to fetch water under the protection of the warriors. Unknown to them, the merchants were close by, and they quietly knocked the warriors unconscious with powder in white handkerchiefs. They captured many of the girls and took them away. This was the second time the human merchants invaded their village and captured their people. Everyone was scared and didn't know what to do. They did not know who was next or when these merchants would come again. King Uzo was helpless. He turned to his fathers to come and help him so that their beloved land will not be wiped away. He lost his appetite and was in a very bad mood. Queen Adugo saw her husband drown in sorrow, and her heart tightened. Who were these monsters that had come and stolen their joy and peace? Were they not humans? What made them so powerful? She decided that enough was enough and that they cannot continue living in fear of the unknown anymore. Something needed to be done, and someone needed to do that very fast. That night, Queen Adugo told King Uzo to please permit her to go into the enemy's midst and bring an end to all the problems they were facing. King Uzo looked at her and warned her never to mention such abomination again. He would rather die than allow any of those men take her away. Queen Adugo held his hand and spoke to him softly, trying to convince him to let her go, that this was a sacrifice she was ready to make for him and their people. But the king flatly refused. Queen Adugo would beg the king every day for him to let her do this. And after several days, the king reluctantly permitted her, with the condition that after 7 days, if he didn't see her, he would come by himself to the enemy's camp to rescue her. Queen Adugo disguised herself as a lady going to the stream, and when the merchants came, they took her along with other villagers. On their way to the merchants' camp, she signaled to the villagers to not disclose her identity. They were taken to the temporary camp, where they usually separated the people that would be sold off across the sea. The remaining people, who were usually beautiful girls, would be taken to the permanent camp with them. They usually used these girls to satisfy their desires and as domestic workers. When they saw Queen Adugo, unknown to them that she was a queen, they were enchanted by her beauty and elegance, and they immediately decided to keep her for the mayor, as she was befitting for him. The mayor usually pitches his tents at the seaside, supervising his business, ensuring that everything went well. After seeing to the success of the transactions, he would then go back to the permanent camp to relax and celebrate with his men and allies. This usually takes some days, and so his men would be at the permanent camp waiting for him already. Queen Adugo and the rest were already at the permanent camp. She took it upon herself to cook for the men one evening. After eating her food, the men asked the girls who cooked, and they pointed to Queen Adugo. They were very delighted, and they told her that she would cook the meal again when the mayor was around, as it was very delicious. Queen Adugo nodded in submission. The mayor was to come back to the permanent camp after a very long time at the seaside, and so he wanted to host a party. He invited all the kings and chiefs that had been loyal and helpful to him in his human business. They all arrived that day and were in jubilant mood. Queen Adugo had already started cooking the delicious meal that was to be served at the party. When the mayor arrived, the men took Queen Adugo to meet him at his inner room. When the mayor saw her, he was very pleased and told the men to bring her to him that night. He then went to join the party. After drinking to their satisfaction, the mayor, his men, and all his guests started to eat the food prepared by Queen Adugo, unknown to them that she had poisoned the meal with the juice of a poisonous leaf, and in 1 hour time they all started to vomit blood and fell to the ground dead. During the celebration, Queen Adugo had seen one of the chiefs that belonged to her husband's cabinet among the mayor's guests. It became clear to her that when King Uzo refused to do business with the mayor, this greedy chief went behind him and sold the village to the mayor. He has been the one giving the mayor information on how best to capture them. Queen Adugo thought to herself, well, good for you. You whined with the devil, so you have to go with the devil. Queen Adugo was still lost in thoughts when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned and saw King Uzo and some of his warriors in the permanent camp. She ran to hug him and narrated all that had happened to him. King Uzo then told her that they had killed some of the men guarding the area leading to the permanent camp. He hugged her and thanked her for sacrificing herself for him and the people of Ogidi. He promised to protect her forever and never let her face any difficulty again. They set the other captives free and then returned to Ogidi, where they ruled together. They went on to have children and lived in peace and harmony.